Well, hey, welcome back to the podcast. Today I have Robert Heath Sr. He's the CEO of the Legacy Leadership Consulting Group, and he's on a mission to empower high achieving professionals to break free from overwhelm and align their lives with purpose and lead with clarity and confidence. Robert, welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me, brother. It's a pleasure to be here.
I feel like when you get to truth, the truth starts to rhyme, or when you get to what works, right? A lot of
hmm
our work that we're getting to, a lot of the people that I talk to, a lot of more experienced professionals and especially leaders, we start saying what sounds to be the same thing over and over again, but it's
hmm
probably because we've arrived to similar life experiences. And one of the key things is the reflection of what success is. What is actually success? How do we define success? Is success in
hmm
the bank account? Is it in the clicks? Is it in the likes? Is it in the the 100, 1 million, 2 million followers? And I think we're
hmm
going through a crisis of identity and success and actions in our culture today. We're recording late summer 25. And yeah, I want to start with that simple
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, no, great question. And the reality of that question is the answer is yes and the answer is no, right? All the things that you said, is that what success is? For depending on the person, yes. Right. But my definition and the way that you kind of navigate that space, I firmly believe that everybody is on this planet for a reason. Everybody has a purpose, everybody has a gift, everybody has greatness within them. And therefore, success is aligning your life, aligning your actions, aligning your attitudes, aligning what you do, both in your thoughts and in your daily activities with that purpose, such that you can be the best you possible.
Mhm.
Right. I love how Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, talks about, when he's teaching his children and when he's helping raise his children, he always let them know, like, I don't hold you to the standard of being me. There's only one me, and I'm awesome, but there's only one me.
Yeah.
The standard that I want you to live to is to be the best you that you can be. And that, in my opinion, is what success is.
Yeah. And I think I want to, so we're going to do this pod a little differently. I'm not just going to ask questions. I'm going to challenge your ideas because this is something that I've been seeing, wrestling with, identifying, just seeing in my clients' businesses and other people that I've
Mhm.
helped in their business and lives. Sometimes the activities that we do, sometimes the thing that
Mhm.
we define success, once you start taking those activities, like you mentioned, it's
Mhm.
a manifestation of who you are and the greatness within you, which I completely
Mhm.
agree with. But when you start taking action, but the actions required don't align with your identity, something's broken and there's misalignment. So it's
Mhm.
not always going to
Yeah.
be, in my opinion, that you are the perfect identity. You have everything ready right now. I think we need to enhance different parts of us, including our identity, to match the actions. Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
because sometimes, dude, I've clients stopping businesses, making more money than they have in the
Mhm.
past, changing directions, and I think it's because identity
Yeah.
hasn't caught up with the actions. But
That's right, and because identity is one of the strongest drivers of activity, right? And if you remember, this is the reason why I talked about alignment,
yeah.
right? And it's not just alignment of actions with a destination. It's also alignment of your thought processes and how you see yourself. See, identity is a way that we think about the circumstances that we encounter in the world, right? If you ask somebody, and Tony Robbins talks about this a lot, right? When you ask a non-smoker if they want a cigarette, they don't say, "Oh, no, no, thank you. I don't want a cigarette." They say, "I don't smoke." As in, that behavior is completely out of alignment with who I am. Of course, I don't want that thing because I don't do that. And it's a completely different understanding of your interaction with the thing. There are people that build businesses but still have a poverty mindset or a scarcity mindset. There are people that have been to the Olympics, but they never see themselves as winners, right? And they can never get over the hump, even though they have all the talent, all the capabilities. You know this in professional athletics. You were talking about the top 1% of 1% of athletes in the world. So it's not a question of whether or not they're capable of doing the work, of doing the job. Everybody that's in the NBA was the man, right? And every female basketball player that's in the WNBA was the woman in her town or in their school or in whatever it was. So it's not a question of whether they're capable, but there's a difference between the mindset, right? Kobe titled it Mamba mindset, right? There's a
Mhm.
difference between the mindset of those that align with that highest vision or that highest sense of themselves. It has nothing to do with the activities. The activities come from the thoughts. The activities come from the mindset, not the other way around. Now, the cool part, and this is where if you've ever read Psycho-Cybernetics,
Mhm.
right? The cool part about the way that our mind works is that it's a cybernetic system where the way that we think influences our actions, and our actions therefore can influence the way that we think.
Mhm.
You can smile and it will make you feel better, even if you're not feeling good when you decide to smile, because there's certain things that happen in the body that then trigger certain experiences that the mind picks up on,
Mhm.
right? And that's the reason why when you're in a movie or in a speech or in something like that, they've done studies that are so cool where when somebody's telling a story and they've put everybody in the audience on kind of like an EEG or EKG where they're monitoring heart waves and brain waves and bodily functions. Now, everybody will start out at a different space. So let's say you're at 110 beats a minute, I'm at 90 beats a minute, somebody's at 60 beats a minute. We won't be at the same number of heartbeats a minute, but our heart rates will increase and decrease together
Mm.
along with that story, because what's happening is that what we're thinking is changing what we're feeling, and then what we're feeling is changing what we're thinking, and we can even sync up. That's the power of alignment. And when you can get that happening, where your thoughts, your identity, like you said, impacts your values, impacts your beliefs, impacts your actions, not only your conscious actions, but your habitual unconscious actions, then your results start to change because all of that is now in alignment.
Well, bring it down to earth a little bit. Like, how do you work with your clients to kind of create that alignment? Because usually busy, type A, most likely if they're leading organizations or teams or
Yeah.
any sort of that. Um, because I agree with you, but like make it practical. Because some of
Yeah.
depending on the person hearing this right now, some might be too abstract and too much
Mhm.
out there.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And to be clear, right, I work with CEOs, C-suite professionals, right, business owners, lawyers, doctors, all of the like, and everybody is too busy, right, too cool for school, right? Everybody's too
Yeah.
busy to do a lot of this work when you first start. But the whole thing about it is, in the Marine Corps, we have a saying that goes, "Slow is smooth, smooth is fast," right? And it's important that sometimes we have to slow down to speed up. And one of the biggest things that I do with my clients is we don't just look at the fact that I'm saying we've got to get aligned. We look at what misalignment is costing you, right? It's not just a question of, can you do this other thing? Can you get the pleasure, right? We as human beings, we run from pain more than we run towards pleasure. So one of the things that I do with my clients, and one of the things I encourage people listening on the pod to ask themselves is, what is it costing you to be out of alignment? What business objective, what familial objective, what stress, right? I remember I was just running a roundtable with a bunch of executives the other day. And one of the things that they were talking about was just the lack of peace of mind being out of alignment. So that's the first thing that we want to look at, because it's not just continue doing the same thing and not have any cost, or I have to slow down. But to your more pointed question, how do we slow down? The first thing we have to know is, where are we going? What does success look like? And some people have no idea what that is, right? We think we do, right? That's where keeping up with the Joneses comes into play. Keeping up with the Joneses is only a thing if you don't know what you want, right?
Mhm.
I've never gone and bought an item at a restaurant because it was on somebody else's plate unless I didn't know what I wanted at that restaurant, right? I've never gone and been like, oh, you know what? I want a steak. Oh, but no, I saw your plate. Now I want chicken. That's never happened,
Yeah.
right?
No one
Now,
downgrades from steak to chicken.
right? Exactly, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
but at the end of the day, oftentimes we don't know that we don't know what we don't know. And oftentimes we're doing stuff, right? I've got a client of mine right now, a friend of mine just became CEO of a company. And part of what he was doing in the beginning was, of course, just doing the stuff. He had been the CFO of the company. Now he's the CEO of the company. It's a multinational company. And he was just fixing the problems that he had seen when he was CFO in the first kind of 6 months of being CEO. But then he ran out of those problems to fix. And so now it's like, well, okay, well, what do I act like? What's my vision? What do I actually want for this? I thought that I wanted to go this way, But now I fixed that stuff way faster than I thought I was going to be able to fix it. So now what? And
Mhm.
that's where a lot of people get stuck. That's where a lot of people, right? It's the dog that catches the car, right? It's like, what do you do now when you've hit all of those goals that you have? When you've proven to yourself that if you put your mind to something, you can make it happen. So the biggest thing is really getting clear on what success means to you, and not just from an intellectual perspective, but from a perspective where it resonates with, like you were saying before, with your identity of who you are.
So how do we do that? So, just to give you some realistic stuff. So when I finished the Ironman, it kinda had like the half Ironman. I had the
Hmm.
blues after. I'm like, "I did this big thing. It was big for me at least. Now what?"
Hmm.
Working out
Yep.
wasn't the same, it was actually kinda boring, and I needed, like, a bigger challenge, but I didn't really
Hmm.
wanna step into a bigger challenge at that moment, so that's, like, a real
Exactly.
practical thing. But
Yeah.
success, I mean, I get it. So success can be a plethora of things. Obviously, it has to be in alignment with the good and has to be in alignment with like
Hmm.
moral virtue. But the yeah. So how do we work through that? How do we slow down
Yeah.
to go
So
smoother?
perfect example. So let's go ahead and look at the half Ironman, right? Because I had a similar experience. I ran one marathon in my life. I'm never running another one because I had that was a bucket list item. I'm
That's what
good.
I said,
But
and then my son turns out to be a runner, so I'm training for probably like 15 more. He's only
yeah,
4.
yeah, exactly. It's crazy. You have fun with that. I'm glad that my son is a lot like me and he doesn't like to run long distance. He's a wide
Uh,
receiver. He plays football. He's like, I got to
he's a
run 100
sprinter.
meters,
He's
dad.
got a
That's about as
sprint.
far.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. He's like 400, 200, 100. That's what I'm running. I'm like, that's my son. All right, let's go. But no, but I understand exactly how that feels because once I got finished with it, there was this kind of, like you said, this almost a blues, right? And
Mhm.
that's natural because a lot of people think that we get joy out of accomplishing goals. The actual reality is that there's a sense of grief when we accomplish a goal because the journey is actually what brings us joy. Getting
Mm.
closer and making progress towards goals is actually what triggers the dopamine
Yeah.
in our brains. And so when we get to the end, there's a culmination,
So I cut off my
right? And
feed,
if we don't,
man. I need to get the new feed.
that's
You
it,
dealing?
that's
You
it.
dealing? I
And
need to
so
get some more. Get some more dopamine over here,
right?
man.
And so in that situation, the whole key is to remember to attach everything that you're doing. This is what we talk about when we talk about purpose,
Yeah.
all right? When you can realize that you have a life's purpose, right? That is a north star for everything that you're choosing. So the first thing that we do with I work with my clients is I don't talk about what are you going to do tomorrow or what are you going to do next week or what are you going to do next month or what are you going to do next year. We really get clear on what is your identity? Why are you here? As you look back over your life and as you look into the future, what is the reason? What's the one galvanizing thing that you know is what you will do no matter what career it is you have, no matter whether you're helping out at your kid's school, whether you're working in the community, or whether you're helping a company, whether you're with your wife, whatever it is that you do, what is the thing that you bring to the world? Because once you know what that is, now we can say, okay, what's the next thing that's in alignment with that that excites you? What's the next thing on that pathway that actually makes you kind of spring with anticipation?
Mhm.
And in that space, what we also create is this loop where you can celebrate milestones without ever having to have the down feeling of, oh my God, the journey is over because this is just a part of a larger journey that doesn't end until you're gone.
Mm. Yeah, like the Infinity Game. Okay. So that's pretty good.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, so you do that, you focus around the bigger piece, but then you align the activities or priorities based on that. But, strategy
Exactly.
is
And we set priorities based on that. That's
or
how you
just a
set your
priority
milestone.
or a priority towards that. But how do you know which? Because I think a lot of leaders, like when they're doing this, they probably have too many options, too many things, too many opportunities,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
shiny object syndrome. Help them.
Exactly.
How do you help them decipher so they can move in the right path and test, and then from there switch if needed?
Right. No, it's a great question. So there's two things that we do, right? And we talked about defining success. That's the bigger picture, right? But it feels like an elephant. It's too big to eat all at once, and you're like, oh my God. Then the overwhelm comes in. How do I do everything in this life? Then that's where we get to step two, right? And we have a 5-step process for mastering your time. Step two is then you set and align your priorities. most people know how to say what's important to them. But then the question of which one do I do first, which one do I do second, is the thing that is so difficult because it feels like I have so many options, so many opportunities. But the reality is, when you look at all of the things that you can do, there are some of them that call to be done now, and there are some that you can do at a later time.
Mhm.
And the analogy that I always like to use is, right, master chess players can think, 20, 25 moves ahead in a chess game. And so the ability to set your priorities is really important. But you also have to be able to align your priorities because if you're a master chess player, but you do move 14 when you should have done move 3, you're not going to look like and have the results of a master chess player,
Mhm.
right? Doing things out of order will mess it up. And so as you look at the things that you're trying to get done, one of the biggest things to be able to do is to see and to, again, and this goes with identity, this goes with values, this goes with beliefs. And a lot of the work that we do, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but like I'm a master practitioner of NLP, neuro linguistic programming, right?
Mhm.
And there's an important element that we know with NLP of having the subconscious mind and the conscious mind in alignment with each other and
Mhm.
moving in the same direction. And when the subconscious mind is in alignment with the conscious mind, it's not just an intellectual knowing. It's more of a resonance, a whole being resonance that lets you know that, yes, this is where I need to be going. And so one of the things that I do with my clients is help them to recognize that feeling. And everybody's had it before, that feeling of being in flow, that feeling of everything just feeling like, right, you had the Midas touch. It was your lucky day. Everything just goes exactly like it's supposed to go. And it's not just an intellectual thing. There's a deep body knowing of what that feels like.
Yeah, that's
And
true
what we
knowing.
do
Yeah.
exactly, true knowing, right? And what we do is we help our clients to become accustomed to what that feels like so that it's not the abstraction, but rather it's the norm, right? The interesting thing, again, I like to use analogies because it paints a better picture than just me trying to say it in words, right? If you look at an airplane that's flying from New York to LA, right? That airplane is only on its pathway, aligned on its pathway, 1% of the trip.
Oh, yeah, and then the pilots, they have to adjust, of course, adjust.
Exactly. It's constantly adjusting because it gets off track and then it gets back on track. But the way that it adjusts is because the autopilot or the pilots, right, with their instruments, know exactly what being on the proper trajectory is. Now, wind happens or, right, they've got to move around a cloud system or whatever the case may be. So they get off track. And that's what happens in life. We have things that move us and pull us off track. But when you have that deep knowing of what being on track looks like, you know how to get back to it. And so what we focus on first is what does it feel like? What is that deep knowing of being aligned? Because once you're aligned, once you know what that North Star is, right? In the Marine Corps, when we're doing land navigation, your whole goal is to get back onto your azimuth, right? To get back on to the line that you're trying to go. Now, you might get off, you might get lost, you might get a couple steps or whatever, but you're constantly paying attention to what are the landmarks or what are the things that you've put into your pathway that help you to know, okay, I'm back on course. So the to your question, I think when people are struggling trying to figure out what do I do next or how do I do this, it seems like it would be, it's almost like a throwaway step, but it's the most important step, which is you have to know what it feels like to be on track. You have to know what it
Hmm.
feels like to be on path first. And that's one of the things that we do when we're setting and aligning. We're not just doing an intellectual exercise of what can I put here and right in a jigsaw puzzle. That's not what's happening. At each step of the way, you go ahead and you allow for yourself to test it against your internal knowing.
Hmm.
And once that plan is in place, the other thing that we do is we allow for ourselves to realize that no plan survives first contact,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
right? And there's a great quote by the late great Dr. Maya Angelou, and she says it this way. She says, "Give yourself grace for what you didn't know when you didn't know it. When you know better, do better." And so often we get down a pathway because we had information and we thought this pathway was the way. And we don't realize that sometimes It takes us going down this pathway to learn the thing that then solidifies for us that this pathway was the one that we needed to go
Oh,
down.
yeah, that's always the
But
case.
for
Once you open the
going
door, then you'll see the other doors that are behind that door and like, "Oh, okay, now I know.
That's the
No,
key.
go back
And
or go
but
forward."
for going down that path, you would have never had the certainty that you have that this is the right pathway.
Yeah, no,
So
that
it's
makes a lot of sense.
a lot of people will feel like it's wasted. It's not wasted. That was the manner, that was the method, that was the means of you having the degree of certainty that was necessary to have the courage to go down that pathway that was actually scarier than the one that you tried at first. And
Yeah,
had you tried to go down this pathway the first time, you would have turned around and run back.
yeah, no, that makes sense. It's more waste of time to wait than to take action. Yeah,
Yeah,
a complete note on that, on the true knowing, like, it has to start intellectually, but I think because we have the duality of mind and spirit, so we have to actually feel it in the body, but it's not. I do see a
exactly.
lot of people getting misled that it's just feely type, and I think that's where
Mm-mm.
you're just gonna get misled to just your appetites, and appetites come and go like hunger. So be very careful with
100%,
that.
100%. Yes, and that's again where that whole idea of alignment comes into play. It's understanding what are the things, right? One thing cannot be in alignment with itself, right? You have to have two or more things in order for them to be in alignment with one another, right? In geometry, when you think
Or
about
like 2 opposites, yeah.
right, when you think about the second dimension, right? A line is the connection between 2 points, right? A point is a single dimension. You have 2 points, and now you can create the second dimension, which is a line between those. In order for you to be in alignment, there has to be, as you were talking about, right? Our conscious knowing has to be in alignment with something else, which would be our deep knowing. And then we add the third thing to that, which is the actions that we take based on that alignment then have to be in alignment with those as well. So our results, our actions and our results have to be in alignment with each other and in alignment with the vision that we put in front of us to begin with. That's the whole iterative process, right? We create a hypothesis where this is what we think is going to happen. We do an experiment, and then we either get results that are in alignment with that, which tells us to keep doing that thing, or
Mhm.
we get results that are out of alignment with that, which causes us to question how do we change the experiment or the hypothesis to make sure that the results wind up being in alignment. That is the whole process in what we do in our lives.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. The other thing, point is to, like, you got all the directions to point your arrows to, like, the line of alignment, but, I think you gotta point it to the highest aim, so making sure that you do that.
Exactly.
Help clarify and
Exactly.
simplify this a bit because we hear this all the time, your subconscious mind with your conscious mind. That's, again, sounds
Mhm.
very abstract, can't touch it, puff of air. What are some practical
Yeah.
ways to really tame the conscious mind in alignment with the unconscious?
Right. No, that's a great question. And I think one thing that I would say is I would change one word, and I wouldn't try to tame the subconscious mind as much as I would try to connect with,
Mm,
right? There's a natural relationship between the conscious mind and subconscious mind that already exists. The big thing is more for us to become attuned with that natural rhythm and natural relationship rather than trying to create something that's artificial or arbitrary.
mm,
So, right, and a practical example for everybody listening, there's a system that mediates between the subconscious mind and the conscious mind called the reticular activating system. And this is a system that allows your subconscious mind to know what to present to the conscious mind.
yeah,
You've
what's
all
important?
experienced this before. If you've driven a new car, maybe it's not new, but it's new to you, right? You've had this experience most likely. You start driving that car, and then amazingly, it seems like everybody and their mama decided that they wanted to go get that car just like you did. It pops up everywhere. The stop sign, the stoplight, the corner store, the grocery store. Everybody went and got the same car that you got. That's the experience. That's what it feels like, but that's not the reality. We know that, right? The reality is everybody had that car long before you did, but your subconscious mind was blocking that out because it wasn't important to you until it was.
Okay.
And once it became important to you, then your subconscious mind began to show you that thing more often that you said was important to you. Now, for those people that might be a little bit skeptical of that or feel like that doesn't work, I want you to try this experiment right now, and you can do it, and Raul, you can do it as well. So take the middle finger of your right hand, and I want you to go ahead and touch the palm of your left hand. Right. So as you're doing that, you can feel the pressure in the palm of your left hand. You can feel the pressure in the middle finger of your right hand. You can see them. You can feel the touch and the pressure. You know what you're not feeling right now? you're not aware of what's going on with the bottom of your right foot.
Hmm.
Right? And now that your attention just shifted to the bottom of your right foot, your hand goes away, and then you're like, oh, and if you really struggle, you can keep both of them kind of there, but it feels like you're switching back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's because the conscious mind is capable of processing somewhere between 40 and 50 bits to about 126 bits of information a second, right? The conscious mind is a spotlight.
Mm.
It shines a light a little bit in the darkness here and there. That's what the conscious mind is capable of. And the subconscious mind, though, is capable of processing upwards of 11 trillion bits per second. I'm sorry, 11 million bits per second,
Okay.
right?
Gotta upgrade my GPU.
Right, there you go. Right now, it's exponentially more than your conscious mind.
Mhm.
So, for example, you've had the experience of going outside and knowing that it was going to rain before you looked up at the sky, or you just had this inner knowing that it was going to rain. And then you looked and were like, oh, yep, there go the storm clouds. Yep, it's about to rain. Right? The reason that you've had that experience is because along every inch of your body, you have heat sensors, cold sensors, wet and dry sensors, pressure sensors, pain sensors all over your skin. You also have your olfactory system that can tell different scents in the air and tell the dampness in the air versus the dryness in the air. All of these things are going on all at once, and your subconscious mind is processing all of that, such that when you walked outside, you could feel the barometric pressure change. You could feel the humidity in the air. You could feel and smell the scent of rain long before you actually were consciously aware of how you were knowing what was going on.
Mhm.
Right? And then when your conscious mind found it, you were like, yep, that's it. It's going to rain. That's the power of the subconscious mind compared to the conscious mind. And so when we're talking about not, again, becoming attuned to it, your subconscious mind is constantly taking in all of this data
Mhm.
from your experiences. But the interesting thing is where we focus is where our energy flows, and it's what we then experience. Right? Tony Robbins says it this way. He says, we don't really experience reality. We experience the reality that we focus on.
Yep.
Right? And so as we go forward and people are trying to figure out, how do I get the conscious mind and subconscious mind in alignment? One of the biggest things is to be very aware of what are the beliefs, what are the values, what's the identity that we hold dear? Who do we think we really are? Right? And this is why when I started at the beginning, I told you one of the first foundational beliefs that I start with my clients with is that your identity is that you are here for a reason. Your identity is that you have greatness within you.
Mhm.
Regardless of whatever the external circumstances you are experiencing, we start from that premise because that premise then allows your subconscious mind to show you very different information. And it allows you to have very different inputs in your thoughts, in your feelings, which then control your actions, which then control your results, which then cycle us all the way back to changing your circumstances.
Yeah, it all starts with a belief.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. You said that you
Thank
learned this in the Marines.
Mhm.
Tell me, like, how?
Yeah. So it's a great question. One of the interesting things, I went to the Marine Corps because of two things. Number one, I wanted to have a challenge. I wanted to be tested. Number two, I wanted to serve my country. But most importantly, I think I wanted to learn how to lead.
Mm.
I knew that one of the things that I believed was that I had a calling to do and help society in some way and help my community and be someone who does good in the world, right? But I also knew I was coming from being a teacher, and I knew that there was a certain level of leadership that was necessary to make big things happen in society, and I knew that I wasn't quite at that level yet. And so in going to the Marine Corps, I was going into an organization where I knew that it was one of the greatest leadership training academies in the world. And something that I learned, right, in our first kind of publication that they had us read, it's a book called War Fighting. And in that book, it talks about how, so many people go into war, and war is chaos. The fog of war is everywhere. You don't have perfect information. You can't make perfect plans. Everything that we would normally do in society to make sure that everything is working well, you generally don't have in war. And those that try to manage the chaos generally struggle and wind up getting lots of people killed along the way, right? But when you learn how to thrive in the chaos, that is when you can be a supreme warfighter. And that skill set of being able to thrive in the chaos allows you to take that not only front to the battlefield and be successful, but to be successful in all of life. And part of it starts from an understanding that you don't need all the information to make very good decisions. You have to understand that you're generally going to have about 70 to 80% of the information you need to make a decision. But that's enough information to make a decision, because what you also have is the capability of pivoting when you realize and learn new information. And that's what the reality of life is. So many people think that there's, these great planners who just have these plans that work to the T. And the reality, General Dwight Eisenhower said it this way: plans are useless. Planning is everything. And planning is so important because it teaches you how to attune yourself to the things that you need to be paying attention to as you're executing that plan, that will give you information to continue on that pathway or give you the information to pivot.
Yeah, to capture and collect the information that you're not collecting right now.
Exactly. And to be aware of the information and to then be able to utilize it, and to be able to utilize it quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true. No, quickly is an important. Speed, but not just speed for its speed's sake, but live with pace.
Exactly. And the whole concept is be able to see what you're seeing and make a decision based on what you're seeing, and trust the fact that if that decision is wrong, you're going to see what you're seeing that's telling you that it's wrong and be able to make another decision that pivots away from that wrong decision. And instead of trying to get everything perfect in hopes that you make the right decision, it's accepting that you're going to make a lot of wrong decisions, because no plan survives first contact. But knowing that you have the capabilities and both intellectually and character-wise to find out what the right thing is. As Dr. Angelo said, when you know better, you do better.
Yeah. Hopefully you'll do better. Hopefully you actually take action. But no, this makes a lot of sense. And I think there's a lot of distress with the good and also the bad of like the phone, social media, and the addictions to distract us from knowing, distract us from actually paying attention, and distract us from not taming, but connecting, like with the unconscious, being able to bring that to surface, to move through our reality effectively. This has been a pretty fun conversation, a bit ethereal, but I appreciate these abstract convos. It's pretty it's a good refresh for me. But I think the key thing here is for our audience listening, identifying what you mentioned, Robert. What's your focus? How are you really aligning to that focus right now to gather the right information and pretty much arm your conscious mind with the already information that you know subconsciously, plus the action you need to take to open the doors that you need to open and get information and either change and get the results that you want. For our listeners here, Robert, where's the best place people can, one, thank you for being on, and two, reach out to you, connect with you?
I appreciate that. LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn, so you can catch me at Robert Heath Sr. 007 on LinkedIn. You can also go to our website, www.tllcg.com. Again, that's T as in Tango, L as in Lima, L as in Lima, CharlieGolf.com. And you can also email us at support@tllcg.com. There's one thing I wanted to kind of finish up with really quickly, because I know that a little bit of what we were talking about is ethereal, and I intentionally wanted people to focus in on the feelings and the thoughts behind things, because here's the reality, and this is in boardrooms, this is with my executive coaching clients. So many of us have practiced pushing down our desires, pushing down our wants, pushing through, right? In the Marine Corps, we used to call it embracing the suck. Right? So many of us are very capable of doing that. The problem is that is a definite way for you to be a high achiever, for you to be above average, for you to have high esteem in the community. But there's a difference between surviving and thriving. And the biggest thing that we go back to is remember that all of the tips and the tricks and the tactics of high performance, everybody knows them. If you manage your schedule properly, If you develop certain habits, right? There's books galore on this. There are
Mhm.
TED Talks that you can go watch on how to be more productive. What I talk to people about, and most of my clients are already high producers, it's not a question of can I do more? It's more a question of what should I be doing
More
now
of.
that I know I can do whatever I put my mind to.
Yeah.
And that's the place where you have to be able to tap back in to your identity, to who you are, to why you are here, because that's where the fulfillment comes from. It comes from the alignment of your skill set, which is productivity, and your being, which has a purpose. And when your productivity is matched with your purpose, that alignment is when you become a legacy builder.
Yeah, you can do pretty big things, and I think that's really important, and I think the issue that you're speaking with are I wouldn't say just those who make it or who made it, because you might be listening right now, you're like, "Oh, I haven't made it yet," but I think you might
Mhm.
have. Like, r if you
Yeah.
really, really, really reflect on your life right now, and you look at your business or you look at the company you're with and look at the work that you're doing, and you're like, "I still haven't made it yet." I think that's a false dream. If you really look at your
Oh, yeah.
health, the relationships that you have, the roof over your head, the opportunities that are within you, I think you have more
Mhm.
than capabilities of making it. It's not a number, it's not a net worth, and just being behind the boardrooms and working with people with like in that mindset. Once you hit those numbers,
Mhm.
or even like in your life, my life, like once you hit a certain milestone, it doesn't really change your
Mhm.
life.
Exactly.
I mean, it gives you options, but it doesn't really change your life. And I think the key thing here that you're talking to is like it's past survival, but here's like how can I really go further and um, I wouldn't say magnify who you are, but expand who you are in generosity. And I think
Mhm.
there's fulfillment in
Yes,
that.
definitely agree. And, Abraham Maslow called it self-actualization, when you can actually walk in alignment and be who your highest self is, right? That person is more generous. That person is more magnanimous. That person is better in every situation because you are living in alignment and walking in your true purpose as your true self.
Yeah. And if you're breathing, you can do it. Robert, we'll put the links in the show
Exactly.
notes. Thank you again for being on.
Appreciate you having me. Oh, and I forgot to tell the listeners, anybody that's out there, if you're wondering, how do I do this, right? The question that Raul was asking a little bit earlier. One of the things that we're going to have in the show notes is a free gift from us to you. We have a tool that's called a self-reflection, self-discovery tool, right? It's how do you define your success? As you remember at the beginning of this, when we talked about what does success mean to you specifically, and that has to be in alignment with who you are. There's a tool that we have that takes you through. There's an assessment, and there's some other things that you'll be able to go through and really figure out what does that mean for you. And so that's our gift to everybody who's listening here.
So we will put that in the show notes again. Thank you, Robert.
No problem. It's my pleasure, brother.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you'd like to get more of these podcasts, please go ahead and subscribe to wherever you're watching or listening to the pod. If you have any suggestions or questions that you want me to answer on the pod, or you have a guest that you want me to interview, please go ahead and email me all of your suggestions and questions at podcast@dogoodwork.io. That's podcast@dogoodwork.io. If you'd like to give me public feedback, you can go on Apple Podcasts, and from there, you can leave up to a 5-star review. I would greatly appreciate that. If you like more free resources where you can get my best strategies to help you increase your company's performance and scale profitably, you can get handpicked articles to propel your growth, and you can get trainings and discussions that I give freely online, as well as low cost resources such as my books and guides. You can get all of that by going to dogoodwork.io/resources. 90% of all these resources are not behind any email opt-ins. You can get instant access by going to dogoodwork.io/resources. Now, if you'd like to accelerate your progress and shorten the gap between information and action and start seeing results in your business, let's work together to increase your company's performance and scale profitably and serve more clients without the overwhelm. You can request a free clarity call to see how we can best support you to reach your goals by going to dogoodwork.io/apply. Again, that's dogoodwork.io/apply. As always, it's an honor to be a small part in your journey. This is Raul Hernandez. Do good work.